So let's talk about it for a bit here. The Chauvin trial just wrapped up their closing arguments, or no, they're making those on Monday, but the defense just rested yesterday. So, both sides have called all their witnesses. I mean, I don't know. When you watch all this go down, people must be curious to know what you think. Like, do you think Chauvin is guilty of sin and needs to be convicted, or are you a former police officer who may even know the guy? I don't know. So you come to police officers' defense sort of automatically because MPD. I don't know. Talk about it a little bit, please.
Well, I am aware of who Derek Chauvin is. We worked on the same department for many years. I did not, work with him in the same precinct or anything like that there. But just in speaking to that particular incident.
Actually, let me interrupt you. Did you know Derek Chauvin? Like, did you talk to him? Did you ever shake his hand or mingle with him at a social or anything like that?
Well, again, I knew who he was, and I mean, we kind of, would say, hello or what's going on, or something like that. There, as we may have attended various firearms training or our annual in-service training, or something, like that. There, but our interactions was, always, pretty brief, and short, just based on because we just would just see each other kind of in passing. And again, when we're at, in service or something like that, there, on, when we have our little 5-minute breaks, you're just kind of speaking to how many ever officers you can speak to real quick, that you haven't seen in a while, and still trying to get your snacks or restroom break in and get back into class, within 5-10 minutes, right? So, we didn't, get the opportunity to hold any, real extensive, type of conversation. But I know exactly who he is.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when we kind of, talk a little bit more directly in regards to, his incident, that led to the death of Mr. Floyd, you would have hoped, with someone, with his level of years of experience and things of that nature, all of the training and stuff that he's gone through over his 18 plus years of service, that he would not have done such a thing. And
what do you mean? What was the such a thing? What are you explicitly saying? What was specifically saying?
Meaning that from the video, because obviously I wasn't there, right? But from the videos that everyone has kind of seen, that and the evidence or whatever that has kind of been presented, even within the trial, that he had his knee on the neck or the upper portion of the shoulder blades of Mr. Floyd, that was causing Mr. Floyd not to be able to, breathe regularly or appropriately.
So you don't buy the idea that it was just an overdose that killed him?
Well, again, I haven't been, I personally, chose not to watch the trial. And I do know that there was a lot of, accusations or, arguments, that have been made, throughout the trial. I heard something even about that he was supposed to have been asphyxiated through carbon monoxide or, something to that matter.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I don't know exactly what the medical examiner, has stated, how he died. There's been so many different professionals, from my understanding, that's been on the stand and stuff like that there. But just from the standpoint alone, of putting some type of pressure on someone's ability or to not breathe,
Yeah.
it just seemed like he would have known, okay, this is a bit much. I need to ease up. He's already handcuffed. We already kind of have him up under control. But again, depending on who you're talking to, in that video, and if you're asking me, it kind of appeared that he just kind of continued to apply more pressure, and that he was, you can kind of see various, facial expressions, and I didn't quite understand what, if he felt the need to apply, that type of pressure, why did you have your hands in your pocket, at that particular time? How come you didn't use your hands, also to help you control this individual if you felt that he was, needed to be, you needed to use that much of force to gain control compliance, right? So there's a lot of different things from an investigatory standpoint, that I look at, along with, as you stated before, being a black male and putting myself in that position, because, that could have almost been, any black male, in that position for the most part. But I can't also stop thinking about, at this particular point in time, and this is just my own, personal opinion, is that that Derek Chauvin, the incident that he was involved in, obviously has become, nationwide. This is so far spread that, almost anybody and everybody has some type of views or opinion, on this. I was quite shocked to find out that the jurors, were not mandated to, stay in a hotel of some sort and be a little bit more kind of controlled or monitored, or whatever the case may be, from, the news or social media, or, whatever the case may be, and that they were allowed to be home,
Mm-hmm.
during this trial.
I'm going to stop you for a second, because I'm curious what back to the incident itself. Something I've thought about is the role of, well, I'll just ask you what you watch the officer act the way you did, and it sounds like it confuses you, because you're not sure why he applied the pressure for that length of time in that way, when it didn't seem necessary. What do you think, the role of the audience, the role of him knowing he was on camera, how do you think that factored into his behavior?
Well, I really can't, speak to what his mindset was, at that particular time, and whether, having his own body camera versus knowing that he had an audience, if you will, and knowing that, individuals typically pull that phone out or whatever and go live or record, and, things of that nature. I don't know where, his mindset was,
Do you think that maybe was a factor? Like, people are talking to him, hey, they're trying to tell him what to do. Hey, get off him, Do you think maybe he was just being, I don't know, it strikes me that the audience factor had a role in this, and that if, he was maybe being stubborn because they were there and trying to tell him to stop it, or something like that. And he was trying to be stubborn. I don't know. It just seems like that might have been a factor.
Well, a lot of officers, kind of have that A-type mentality,
Yeah.
And it's, you can't tell me what to do. I'm the police. I'm going to tell you what to do. And then when you kind of get into some of these, power struggles,
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, some officers throughout the country tend to, want to, even further exert, their power and their control and, things of that nature. And sometimes it does not end, very well.
Hmm.
And so again, I can't say, you know, whether having a crowd, or camera footage or whatever the case may be, incited, his mindset, to be um, a little more assertive, with his level of force or not. You know, I would hope not. You
Hmm.
know, but whatever his mindset was, right? Whether it was the audience, the cameras, or a combination of both, or the heat of the moment, or you know, um, past and previous and continual behavior. I mean, because it was documented that he had multiple complaints,
Hmm.
kind of against him. Um, but kind of that's almost here nor there at this particular point in time. But I hate to think, feel, and believe that as being a former law enforcement officer, and I know that within all of the years that I was with Minneapolis, I was never trained like that.
Right.
You know, um,
Yeah.
so
Well,
I can only
this would be a brand new class in your training, won't it? Right? For police officers, like, only in the last few years would they even have had to create a curriculum for such a training module or class. How to react when the public stands around with cell phones, right? I mean, that must be something that they train police for nowadays.
well that we've been trained as far as training for large gatherings or whatever the case may be. I
Yeah,
mean, that training for that's been around for a long time.
sure.
That's nothing that's just been in past few years. I mean, obviously, body cam footage, or I should say, body cameras. And people with cell phones and stuff like that. There, I mean, those things have been around for a little while now.
Right.
So again, this is nothing new.
Well, you almost think they should. I could just the idea just popped in my head that during the academy they bring in a bunch of volunteers or extras on the set of this scene that they set up, where as you're trying to make an arrest with a suspect, um, there are people jeering you or people yelling at you. Like there's like a crowd of people there. You know what I mean? To try to recreate what that would feel like, to get an officer used to working within a hostile setting like that. I mean, man, that must be some of the more difficult aspects of the job.
And it is, the factor of the unknown is always, the most difficult. And
Mm,
and again, when you have a large gathering, that factor of the unknown becomes even just that much more unpredictable. But again, law enforcement agencies throughout the country, provide, same or similar type training as what you speak of.
oh, they do.
So it's not foreign or just kind
Mm,
of
mm,
uncommon, or it's just never been done,
yeah.
to deal with large crowds. I mean, that training does exist.
Okay.
So
Sure.
again, I just would hate to think, that at that particular time, that the incident was occurring, that he was doing um, providing that use of force, that level of force, with any type of intent or malice, you know, um, to create great bodily harm and or death, in this particular situation. Um, but again, depending on, who you're looking at, I mean, who you're talking to, and breaking down that particular video footage, from multiple different angles, um, that's quite arguable. That you could argue certain facts or certain points that that's exactly what he did do.
Mm-hmm.
There was some intent there. There was some malice there. I mean, 9 minutes or over 9 minutes, that's quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter, what sport you're playing, or, especially if you're kind of, fighting as we're training. I mean, being in some type of intense situation, 9 minutes is a long time.
Yeah. So give me your, speak for a bit. Oh, speak as long as you want about your thoughts leading into next week. I mean, this could be the biggest week in Minneapolis law enforcement history. It could go in an incredibly awful direction next week. I mean, it's epic as
Absolutely.
far as community goes. What are your thoughts going into next week?
Well, before I kind of speak about next week, let me just kind of roll back just a little bit in regards to this Derek Chauvin trial. Yep. With it being kind of historic and things of that nature, and we kind of spoke about this earlier, as far as all of the racism and things of that nature, right? I don't believe, that Mr. Chauvin, would ever really get a fair trial. I don't believe that he would get a fair trial. Why do I say that? Is because when you look at how things have kind of transpired with this here, with them only letting one family member in the courtroom per side, with them having this live in the courtroom, things of that nature. His situation was also compared to the former officer Nor's case from a few years ago. This didn't. It started out right versus wrong, but it quickly turned into black versus white. And I think that this has gained obviously so much attention and so much momentum and so on and so forth, that this has become more of a racial motivated situation, and seemed like it's been compounded with finances, and you see CNN and World News and Dateline and all of these other entities that are showing this stuff daily. Mm-hmm. How do they get access to this stuff? They get access to this stuff because of those cameras in that room, and they're paying for for them to kind of have access to this information. And so I cannot not think about him not getting a fair trial, and this is what
that goes back to your point about the jury not being sequestered, not being in a hotel. They're home. They're on. I don't know how exposed they are to media and social media. I don't know. I haven't read up on that enough, but yeah, it is.
Well, that's obviously a factor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I come home, I'm exposed to potential kids, or my wife, or my significant other, or just whatever the case may be, and in cases if you have kids at home, kids are curious. Mm-hmm. Kids will ask you questions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in most cases, I'm sure that they're not gonna be able to answer that, but it still provokes various thoughts and triggers various things, within that individual. And yes, I do believe, Officer Chauvin should have consequences, mm-hmm. For his actions. Now what those consequences are, I can't speak to that. But at the same time, I'm also kind of you know, my heart kind of goes out to him just a little bit, because I think that, you know, he's going to be one of those cases where he's going to be made an example of, you know, and it's not going to have anything to do with so much of what he did. A lot of it's going to be based off because, you know, a white officer, you know,
Right.
killed a black man.